All growing up, right before bedtime, my mom and dad would lay us down. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and they would say, hey, what 2 things do you know to be true? We would almost roll our eyes and go, God loves me and you love me, right? Mom loves me, dad loves me. And I always knew in my head that their love manifested itself. It showed itself that when I was a baby, they changed countless diapers. I threw temper tantrums, right? They sent meals to school and they drove us to practice and picked us up. And I always knew that a parent's love for a kid was a lot, but it didn't really click for me until about 9 months ago when I held my daughter for the first time. When I held little Piper and I understood what my parents were trying to constantly remind me of, that their love for me, it meant something. It was deep, it was significant. And I love that Paul uses that analogy of a father's love for their child, of a mother's sacrifice, for a mother's love for their kid that goes, man, let me show you how much I love you. Not because there's something massive in it for me, but because this love, it goes beyond any understanding of a give and take type of relationship. And in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, Verse 4, Paul says, on the contrary, we speak of those approved by God that are entrusted with the good news. We are not trying to please people, but God who tests our hearts. See, Paul's challenge to love here comes from a place of don't simply love those that you know are going to turn around and love you. This isn't to please people. This is to please God who knows our hearts. And then he's going to talk about mothers. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, he says, just as a nursing mother cares for her children, so we cared for you. Because we loved you so much, we were delighted to share with you, not just the gospel, but our entire lives. And for the last 9 months, as my wife has nursed Piper, right, 5 times a day, we stop no matter what's happening and the inconveniences that come along with that. But it's this pause and it's this reminder that this love doesn't come from a place of because everything Piper's giving her. This love is the love that a mother has for her child. And then he goes on to talk about the father. He says, for you know that we dealt with each one of you as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God who calls you into his kingdom and glory. Right? And friends, this is where the challenge and the invitation comes from in 1 Thessalonians. Who are the people in our lives that we love simply because that's what we're called to? That God calls us to be a people of love. In John chapter 13, he says we'll be marked by our love. We'll be known as his followers, not by the people that we love that are easy to love, but by the people that we know because God has first loved me, because his love went first and sacrificed. I can now turn and respond to that kind of love by living a life of love. As a mother loves their child, as a father loves their child. And for me, sometimes I look at the people that I'm called to love around me and I'm like, man, that's hard. Or I don't want to, or that's inconvenient. And yet I'm reminded of the amount of times that my parents, when it was difficult, when it was, the going went tough, there wasn't a lot of in it for them, that their invitation was still to love me as their child. And that's Paul's challenge to go, hey, would you be reminded in the same way a mom pauses and stops and nurses her child, when a father disciplines, when a father encourages, when he comforts, when he urges their children to live a certain way, would that be the kind of love, responding to God's love first, that we turn and love those in our lives? Thanks, Dosers. We'll see you tomorrow.